the Pollyanna, like fake positivity, but like, what can I find with gratitude where I really can find something good going on in my life?
I'll do the intro. Oh, he's already gone. Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've landed on Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. This show can now be seen or heard on 1,000 platforms across the galaxy. Probably anything you can name, from Roku to Amazon Fire to Apple TV to think of it, and it's probably there. I'm putting all of the shows in one place to make it easy for you. Just go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Also, I've had a coaching program for 20 some years. I trademarked it decades ago. It's a system that works. It's proven to work, and I invite you to check it out. No charge, no obligation. Go to miraclescoaching.com, miraclescoaching.com. Two other things before we get to the juicy part of this show. And one is my online program, the Mental Time Travel System, is really helping people clean up the past, get their power back in the moment, and then create the future they desire and deserve. Check out mentaltimetravelsystem.com. And next, you should know, if you've been watching this show, I'm an author. I write books. I've written over 80 books. And my latest book is called Unexpected Kindness. Unexpected Kindness. It's brand new. I wrote it for two reasons. One, to give thanks to the people who helped me when I was broke, unknown, unpublished, struggling, starving, homeless, in poverty. And yet there were people who performed unexpected kindness. I wanted to give thanks to them. The second reason is I'm hoping it ignites a movement in you to do unexpected kindness for people. Sometimes we call it random acts of kindness. I'm calling it unexpected kindness. Surprise somebody by doing something kind. Big or small, it doesn't matter. We all know what kindness is. New book, Unexpected Kindness. Go to unexpectedkindnessbook.com. And now I search the world looking for guests that make a difference in your life. As I promise, every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. Now, as you're sitting there, you probably have something you could complain about. You probably had some rough moments in your life, and maybe you're going through some right now. Maybe today itself was a little rough. But my guest today has had challenges that I have found to be mind-boggling. And she has come on to help you and me. So let me tell you who you're going to be listening to. Amberly Lago is a peak performance coach, TEDx speaker, podcaster, and a leading expert in the field of resilience and transformation. She is the best-selling author of True Grit and Grace and the founder of the Unstoppable Life Mastermind. Through her book, Coaching Methods and Mastermind, she has curated unique tools to teach others how to tap into their superpower of resilience and elevate their lives and businesses. Amberly has most recently been featured on NBC's The Today Show, The Doctors, Hallmark. She's been featured in magazines such as Shape, Fit Pregnancy, Yahoo, Forbes, USA Today, LA Style, Health Magazine, Keynote Speaker Magazine, and Disability Magazine. The list goes on. But here's what's going to hit you and make you want to lean forward. This woman not only overcame sexual abuse and addiction, but after a car accident, she went through 34 surgeries. Then she had a nerve disease that was called the suicide disease. This was supposed to leave her wheelchair bound. Along the way, she accumulated a medical debt of $2.9 million. Now, despite all of that, which is almost mind boggling to consider one person going through. She has reinvented herself and her career. She is inspiring people, motivating people, and helping people get through whatever their challenges are. That's why she's here today. Her website is at amberlylago.com, but she is here today. Amberly, how are you?
Oh my goodness. Dr. Joe, it is so amazing to be here with you. And I told you before we started recording, this is a
Mm.
dream come true for me because I'm
Really?
such a big fan of yours. So thank you. And I'm a fan of your show. So thank you for having me.
Of course. You know, I started reading your bio when I went to your site, amberlylago.com, and I saw the things like the 34 surgeries and the near amputation and the suicide disease. And I got
Mhm.
I got them now. I got chills going up and down my spine. That is a lot for anybody to go through separately, but to have
Mhm.
all of those things go through one person is an enormous challenge. Can you take me back before the very first thing, which I'm going to assume was a car accident? I don't know that. But before the very first challenge, what were you doing?
Well, thank you for asking. Well, actually, we're neighbors here in Texas now, but before that, I lived in LA for 31 years
Mm.
and I had a very successful career. I was in the fitness industry. I was doing infomercials with Body by Jake. I was in Health Magazine. I was
Oh,
on
wow.
Vitamin. Yeah, I mean, well, that might be aging myself to say Body by Jake, but he's still
I know who
around.
he is. I know who
Yeah,
he is,
he's
and I know
still
he's still
around.
around. Right.
But I had a wildly successful career in the fitness industry. I trained clients, but I also employed a lot of trainers. And I was really living the California dream. And everything changed in the blink of an eye. And it wasn't exactly a car accident. It was actually, I was on my Harley driving home, feeling that California sun and the breeze going through my hair on Ventura Boulevard, and on my motorcycle, I had an SUV that shot out of a parking lot and they T boned me. And I got thrown 30 feet and I slid
Mm.
across the asphalt and was rushed to the hospital and put in induced coma. And the first thing I learned when I woke up out of a coma was I had a 1% chance of saving my leg from amputation. And when they told me that, my first thought was, oh, thank God there's still a chance. That 1% chance,
Good
I'll
for you.
take it. We
Yeah.
just need to find a doctor who's willing to take that chance with me.
No, you got to stop there
But
because
it took,
but wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Most people, if they heard the 1% chance, will not flip into a positive mindset saying, I have 1% chance. They would be thinking, oh, that's 99%. That means this is going to be ruined. I'm going to lose my leg. This is a horrible experience. Why was your default optimism? Why was your default looking at, I'm going to go with the 1%? That's my best bet.
well, you know what? I think a lot of how I grew up did impact the way that that led to the way that I think about positive thinking. And
Hmm.
I love my dad. He is a good man. He was a great businessman and he did the best that he could. But he's never been a very positive person. I
Mm.
mean, you could call him and say, "Hey, I won the lottery." And he's like, "Yeah, but you're going to have to pay taxes on
Right.
it." You know what I
Right.
mean? He's maybe you
Yes.
call him a realist. But anyway, I always grew up thinking I want to focus on the good. And the more that I focused on the good, because I also, we all don't have perfect childhoods. I definitely did not have the most perfect childhood. And when my mom and dad got divorced, my mom remarried my stepdad, who ended up sexually abusing me. And I don't mean to take this to a dark place, but what I learned from that is in that moment, there was such shame and sadness. But I realized when I focused on the good and when I did something good, which was propelled into dance and into sports, and I became an athlete. And I focused on the good and I focused on getting good grades. The good just kept getting better. So I
Mm.
trained my mind to focus on the good. not like the Pollyanna, like fake positivity, but like, what can I find with gratitude where I really can find something good going on in my life? And so I think that throughout the years of doing that, it came to this moment where they said that. I was like, oh, well, of course, my mind goes to, okay, the 1%, that's the good. We're going to focus on that. I'm going to find a doctor who's going to be willing to fight to save my leg.
Hmm.
And I did not realize that it would take 34 surgeries and
Mm.
months in the hospital, and how long that it took. And it took a lot of grit. And by the grace of God, yes, they did save my leg. But I've learned a lot of lessons along the way about how to be resilient, about what works and what doesn't. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's what I like to share with people so they can be resilient and not make some of the mistakes that I've made.
We want to hear about some of those lessons, but before we do, I want to go back just a little bit to see if I can uncover something. You said when you were experimenting with finding the good and focusing on the good, you noticed that you would get more of it or see more of it. Was that something that just was divinely given to you? Did you see somebody talk about that? Did you see, because the movie Pollyanna came out in well, the book came out in 1913. She actually taught that, looking for the good in situations and in people. Was there something like that? The book, the movie, somebody, was there anything? Or was it just you?
That's such a good question because I I I didn't really have anyone that taught me that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I think the first mentor in my life that I really had was my dance instructor and then my track coach,
Hmm.
but they weren't necessarily like focused on look for the good and be positive. They were just like, suck it up. Like they
Mm,
taught me the mentality, which I've had to kind of like unlearn, which was suck it up, push through pain, keep going, ignore the pain, ignore your body, like just keep pushing, which
mm,
served me well for a long time until it didn't.
mm,
But I think that my mom is such an incredible mom, and she was always had such she's a Southern belle and had such good manners, and she's a very positive person. So I'm sure that I developed some of that from her, but I don't know. I think that it's I don't know where I got
well,
that from, but I've
I was
always been
only,
you know what,
yeah.
Dr. Joe, I always felt a little different. I always felt a little different, and I think that's why I knew when I was 8 years old. I grew up in Texas. When I was 8 years old, I told my family, "I'm moving to California." They're like, "California? Why are you moving to California?" And I'm like, "Because that's where I'm going to live." And
Mm,
lo and behold, when I was 18, I packed up my car that I'd bought with my own money, drove out, and people were like, "You're making a big mistake. You'll be right back." And I lived in California for 31 years and I loved it. But I always felt a little bit different, like I didn't quite fit in.
yeah. Well, good for you though, because you were following your dream, you were following your instinct, and something that came in with your life gave you that ability to look for the good. So that's wonderful. So now we're going back to you're in this accident, you're in the hospital, you got 1%, you're going to take the 1%, you find doctors, but you got 34 operations. 34
Hmm.
operations. After the first one or two, did you ever start to doubt? Did you ever get to the point like this isn't got to work? Did you have to buck up? What got you through 34 operations, especially the very first few? And then they say more.
You know what? I was focusing on one day at a time and trying to be as strong as I could mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so, like, I remember that time in the hospital and my husband being so angry at the
Mm,
guy that hit me. And
yeah.
people were like, "Or aren't you angry?" And I wasn't angry. I didn't have time for anger. All I had time for was to focus on healing and being the best that I could. So I did everything that I could spiritually to pray, to focus on gratitude, to write in a journal, which really helped me. I mean, mentally writing in a journal and writing down what I was grateful for shifted my mindset. And I know that sounds so simple, But it really, I remember there was one time I was in the hospital, it was in the middle of the night, and I was watching this infomercial of this beautiful girl in a bikini. She was running across the beach, and it clicked. Oh my goodness, what if I can never wear a bathing suit? What if my husband's not going to be attracted to me? What if I can never run? What if I can never walk? What if I die? And it just kept
Mm,
spiraling down. And I thought, wait a minute, stop. Focus on where I am right here, right now. And where I am right here is I'm alive. I've got breath. I'm in a hospital. I have people that love me. My husband loves me. I've got great nurses. And I noticed when I started writing down in my gratitude journal how that shifted my perspective, and I started feeling better. And so,
mm,
what I started doing in the hospital was everything I could do when I say to be stronger mentally, physically, and spiritually is stronger physically was the doctors thought I was a little crazy. Maybe I am, but I asked them, I was like, can you please give me a pull up bar? I need to have a pull up bar installed over the hospital bed because I can't get out of this bed, but at least I can make my upper body strong. And
wow.
they're like, okay. So I was doing pull ups. I had a friend of mine who was a trainer bring me some dumbbells, and I was doing curls in the hospital bed. Now, it wasn't like I was necessarily trying to get big muscles. I was doing everything I could physically to make me feel like I was moving in the right direction. And
Mm,
so I was eating everything I could. I mean, I had my own fridge. I was the only person on that hospital floor that had my own fridge. And I had
wow.
friends that were bringing me like organic food. So being of service, having gratitude, eating as healthy as I could, praying, and doing everything I could mentally, physically, and spiritually is what helped me get through each moment. And it really wasn't until I got home and I thought things were going to get better and I was diagnosed with CRPS that things started to kind of spiral down and I started to lose hope and I started to lose confidence in my ability to move forward. And that's when I really hit rock bottom. And I went
Mm,
from being an athlete and so all the success to becoming an alcoholic. And I had
oh,
never been a drinker.
oh,
And it was humiliating. I had a lot of shame, especially because my husband was a lieutenant commander with a highway patrol and I was hiding it from him.
oh.
And it took a lot of courage to actually admit that, oh my gosh, I've got a problem. But it was when I did that and I reached out for help that my life started to change. And so I encourage anybody who's listening who is like struggling that the thing that really saved me, the thing that helped me the most was when I was in acceptance for where I was. Um, I had the courage and the humility to ask for help and was willing to do anything and everything humanly possible to get better every single day.
This is amazing. You are an amazing woman, and I can see where you're inspiring people today. So thank you again for being here to inspire all of us. When you left after those 34 operations and saved your leg, what was the disease? You gave me the initials, but I don't think I know what that is.
Yeah, it's called complex regional pain syndrome. And so it's dubbed the suicide disease because it's ranked highest on the pain scale and there's no known cure. It's a
Mm,
disease of the sympathetic nervous system, and it's basically, for a better lack of term, it's like a computer that needs to be rebooted. There's a constant pain cycle. So it feels a little bit like there's battery acid running through your veins along with a
oh,
vice grip around your foot. Mine is in my leg. And so I thought things were just going to get better. And I was pushing and pushing and pushing through the pain. The athletic mentality that I had growing up with this coach and this dance teacher that were like, suck it up,
hmm,
cowgirl up,
hmm,
no pain, no gain. When I walked into the doctor, they told me it'd take 2 years for me to walk again. And 4 months I was up on crutches and I was on my way to see this doctor. And I thought, he's going to be so proud of me. Look at me. I'm upright on crutches already. And he looks at me and he says, Are you the kind of girl that likes to push through pain? And I was like, huh, well, you can tell I've got a PhD and suck it up. Yes, I am. And he's like, well, you need to stop right now. You've got something very serious. And I was like, well, yeah, I got hit by an SUV. And he goes, no, you've got a nerve disease. He goes, your life is never going to be the same. You need to go home, get back in your wheelchair, and you'll never work again. You'll never walk again. And you'll probably have to wear orthopedic shoes if you wear shoes at all. And I was kind of like, orthopedic shoes? Like it all, like, what? And I said, okay, well, how long do you need me to stay in my wheelchair? He goes, forever. And I felt like I had been kicked in the gut, but I left there and I didn't go home. I went straight to physical therapy and I went to my physical therapist, which I actually have a key to the physical therapy studio because I was there every single day. I was there so much that they gave me a key to the studio. I still have the key. And I said, Terry, I need, he goes, you don't have an appointment today. And I said, I know I don't, but I've just learned something and I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked before if I want to have the life that I've always imagined. I said, I just learned I have CRPS. And it really has taken, that was the hardest moment of my life, getting through mentally, how to get through the pain. And you know what, Dr. Joe, I was actually on the doctor's TV to talk about CRPS, and I had a lot of haters come out of the woodwork. And it was
Mm.
the first time in my life I ever had haters. And I was like so heartbroken. And my husband was like, congratulations. It's about time you had some haters. And I was like, oh, I'm just trying to help people. But what happened was on the doctors, you know how it is with TV, they sometimes cut down the segment. And for
Yeah.
me, they cut out the segment where I'd said I had tried a spinal stimulator, ketamine infusions, Eastern Western medication. At one point I was on 73 homeopathic pills and 11 different prescription medications at one time. They
Wow.
cut all that out and they said I just moved through the pain with my mindset.
Oh.
But you know what? What really helped me, because none of the other medications were helping me. Yes, I changed my diet. I work out. I pray, all the things mentally, physically, spiritually. But what led to that was I had to switch my mindset. And once I switched my mindset is when things started to get better.
Wow.
And a lot of people didn't want to hear that they can't
Hmm.
move through pain with your mindset. Well, your mind is powerful. And if you can rewire your mindset to how you think about things and how you do things, then yeah, it is possible to get through it.
This is amazing. This is amazing. So, oh God, I don't even know where to ask or where to begin. This is such an overwhelming story. Are you still struggling with this? You apparently still have it, but you're managing it, or is that incorrect?
No, I still do have complex regional pain syndrome.
Hmm.
I am so blessed that I walk. I can still run after my kids, like I used to, but I can run if I have to. I exercise. I still get to have a life of joy. And I have learned that you can live with pain and you can build upon the joy despite living with pain.
Hmm.
And, sometimes it gets bad and sometimes it gets scary because when the pain gets overwhelming, it starts to consume my brain and I get a little brain fog. But I have learned that there are ways to get through it. There are ways, and it's really been getting back to basics. And this sounds so simple, but it's something that I've had to learn is, with when you're dealing with chronic pain, and it doesn't matter if it's physical pain or if it's emotional pain or
Hmm.
if it's any kind of pain going on in your life, you can get to the basics where you're getting enough sleep, where you're not you're where you're I like to remember the word halt. Don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Then you're going to be able to manage it better. you know,
That's a good tip right there. Halt. What was it? Hungry, angry,
lonely or
lonely,
tired.
or tired? Hmm. Okay,
Mhm.
that can keep us in peace and keep us going right there.
Mhm.
One
And
thing.
then and for so oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. Well, there's so many things to talk about. That's why it's real easy to get derailed and go down a rabbit hole. I want to hear more about these different ways that we can get through pain and get through our days. Most of the people watching or listening are probably not going precisely through what you're going through, but they probably got some sort of challenge, whether it's COVID or a cold or something else. And the other thing I'm curious about, because I don't want to overlook it, is your $2.9 million in medical debt, because a whole lot of people can relate to that, and how you transcended that, got rid of that, paid that, or whatever you did to erase it.
Yeah, that just bought our house about
Mm,
4 months ago. We had a lien on our house. Um, I was the main breadwinner of the family, and I was out of work for a year and a half. We blew through my savings.
mhm,
We had so much debt, and I'll tell you that you know what, if you have any medical debt, negotiate, because we were able to negotiate a lot of stuff down, a lot of debt down with Blue Cross and hospitals and doctors and stuff like that. And also, let me just tell you a really quick tip. God forbid you're ever in the hospital like me, but if you are, make sure the doctors that are coming to see you are in your they're they're
mm,
covered by your insurance, because we
mhm.
had a pulmonary doctor that wasn't in our network, and I've got great insurance. It was $300 every time he came in to just to check my breathing.
Yeah.
And so I learned a big lesson from that. Like, make sure that you're checking with all those doctors to see if they're in your network. But I tried really, really hard to get back to what I was doing. And what I
Mhm,
learned was resilience isn't about going back. So a lot of you listening may be sitting
mm,
here going, well, I'm just going to wait till things go back. I'm going to wait till things go back to normal. I'm going to wait till whether you believe it's a recession or coming a recession or whatever is going back to normal. Don't wait. You got to do stuff right now, and you got to figure out what you're going to do right now. Um, I tried real hard to go back to my fitness business, and it just didn't work. I was killing myself trying to be on my leg
mm,
so many hours of the day. And so I would encourage you, anybody who's like, well, I don't love what I'm doing. I want to do something else. I want to get out of debt. I want to do something that I love. I stopped and I thought about, well, what brings me joy? What would I do every day, all day long, if I got paid, whether I got paid or not? And I thought, I love working with people. I may not be able to see that transformation in them physically, like on the gym floor that I did for 26 years, but maybe I could see another type of transformation. And so that's when I went back to getting a coaching credential and started coaching.
mm.
Um, and then I thought, well, I had a lot of people saying you should write a book. Dr. Joe, I didn't even own a computer 5 years ago. Like, I did not even know how to send an email
Right.
with a picture attached. My life was on the dance floor, being a professional dancer, and then on the gym floor. And so being on Zoom or technology or anything was completely new. I decided to write a book, and this is for anyone listening who is, I'm 50, almost 50, I'll be 51 next year. I didn't start my book until I think I was almost 40, 48, 47 years old. This is for anyone listening who's like, I'm too old, or I'm not smart enough, or this or that. Look, I don't have a college education. I didn't own a computer. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had a strong enough why, and I
Mm,
was focused on the people that I wanted to serve. And so think about what brings you joy. Think about the people that you want to serve, the people that you want to impact, and then do everything you can to connect with people like Dr. Joe, who is a legend and who has so much. He's got courses, he's got books, he's got everything you could need to know. Follow him, take his courses, learn from him so you can do bigger, better things. I decided to write this book, and my friend Greg Reed always says, seek counsel and not opinion. And that's really important. And I'm big on, hiring a coach. I'm a coach and I've got a coach. I'm a mentor
Mhm.
and I have a mentor. I have a mastermind and I invest in masterminds because it's so important who you surround yourself with, and you're seeking counsel. And what I mean by that is when I wanted to write a book, I told some family and friends, and they were like, "You're crazy. You'll never do it. You don't even own a computer. Stick to fitness." And so when I went to somebody who had published 75 books, they were like, "Oh, of course. Yeah. This is what you want to do. Start here, do this, do that." And so I really think that once I started to figure out what brought me joy, I could figure out where I wanted to go. So if you are in debt, and I'm always the kind of person, when I first moved to LA, I got 4 jobs in the first 2 weeks. So I was willing to do whatever it took to earn money. I was like,
Mhm.
I'll mop floors. I will clean toilets. I don't care. If I need to pay the bills, I will pay the bills. But what I did was I wanted to go, okay, well, what can I do that I'm familiar with? And that was coaching clients. And so I started doing that. That took off. I wrote a book that took off, and it was not that easy. It took a lot of work, and it still
Mhm.
does. So I don't want you listening to think, oh, it was so easy for her. No, it took a lot of grit, but figure out what brings you joy and what you can do. And then, yes, it might be some work, but it won't feel like a job.
Right.
And it took a long time. It took me a few years to get out of debt. And it took until, my goodness, I just told you a few months ago, we moved to Texas, and I sat
Mhm.
outside, and I sat outside in a hammock with my daughter, Dr. Joe, and I just got overwhelmed with tears of gratitude because I looked at our house and I thought, oh my goodness, it's taken me 12 years, but I'm actually able to do what I love. And I finally was able to buy my family this house. And my husband's
Wow.
retired, and I can provide this for my family. So it's not overnight. It does take time and it does take grit,
Mhm.
but it works.
So let me ask some questions that might be a little challenging, if you don't mind, because I want to see how we can unpack this and help even more people. Because your story is inspiring, and the tips you're giving along the way are reminders of what works. So I'm curious, why do you think you had these challenges? And you can take any of them. You can look at the accident when the SUV hits you. You can look at the disease and you're being diagnosed. Why do you think? I'm looking for a more universal, spiritual, metaphysical, if you will, psychological, if you will. And you may not even have an answer, but I'm curious to know. You've probably thought about it. And you probably thought, why me? You even said your husband was mad at God. So he was thinking it came from God. Where do you think this came from? Why did you get these challenges?
Oh, I'm here to show others that they can heal.
Hmm.
That I often I'm not afraid to show the scars on my leg. My leg is severely deformed and scarred up, and I used to have a lot of shame about that. And once I learned to accept my scars and actually even learn to love them, which was a huge transformation for
Mhm.
me. And I had help with that. My doctor helped me with that. Um, I show my scars so others know that they can heal. And you know what? I really, really believe that I went through all of that to show other people that they can get through adversity.
Mhm.
There are ways to get through challenges. And even I would not wish sexual abuse on anyone, but I wrote about it in my book, and I'll never forget. You get the box of books. You've written so many books. You get that first box of books and you open it. My husband picked up the book and he read the back of it. And he's like, oh my gosh, they said something about sexual abuse on here. And I'm like, yeah, I wrote about it in the book. Maybe you should read the book. And he's like, oh my gosh, you wrote about that?
Mm,
I've had more people, men and women, reach out to me about thanking me for writing about the sexual abuse because they've been able to let go of the shame and
mm,
realize they can walk with dignity and
mhm.
grace.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm sorry you've had to go through all these different things, but I do see how you are inspiring people as a result of going through all these different things. So the other thing we need to look at here is how can we help the people the most? Say, I like to imagine that there's some woman, she's a single mom, she's got 2 kids, maybe she's unemployed or maybe she's just scraping by. She's living in Montana or Nebraska, pick any state that you like, and she's listening to you, but she's suffering. Maybe she's got some sort of pain. She's got some sort of challenge that's going on medically. And every day she wakes up into a cloud of darkness. She is not feeling the sunlight. She's not feeling the positivity that you're demonstrating here. What can she do? Where does she begin to turn the ship around? How does she raise the blinds of her life so that she can see the sunshine coming in? What would you coach?
Okay, well, I would say, first of all, and I know this is hard and it takes a lot of courage, and it took every ounce of energy and every bit of courage in me to do this. But I had to reach out and admit that I needed help.
Mm,
Like,
mhm,
first, I think any transformation starts with acceptance. And I think you have to go, okay, take a good hard look at your life and what you're doing. And a good question for that is to ask, how's that working for you?
mm,
Like, how's it working for you to wake up and do the same things every single day? Is it helping you or is it hurting you? And
mm,
then how can you get help? And I will say, when I was at my lowest point, I reached out to somebody. It took every ounce of courage to ask for help. It was a client. I was in so much shame because I
mm,
was actually now asking a client who I knew was sober if they could help me because I had a drinking problem. And she's like, sure, sure, sure. I'm going to help you. I'm going to take you to a 12-step program, this and that. A week went by and I never heard back. And I literally thought, I'm going to die. And so the reason I share this is not to make that person look bad because people get busy. People
mhm,
have, they can't do things or whatever. You have to be willing to help yourself. So I got on Google and I Googled 12-step programs, and I Googled a place where I could go to a meeting between when my daughter was in school and my husband was at work because I was then sneaking my drinking, then sneaking going to recovery. And so I share that because you got to be willing to help yourself
mhm,
and decide that you want to be resilient, that you want to be the victor of your life and not a victim anymore. Starting every day with getting up and not depending on motivation, because I'm not always motivated, but depending on healthy habits and asking yourself the right questions. So I got caught up in, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? Well, how am I going to get through this pain? And what I had and what changed it was, one day I was in the hospital bed downstairs at our house, and my daughter was 2 years old, and upstairs all she said was mama. And I heard her voice. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've been asking myself the wrong questions. I need to ask myself why. Because when you're asking yourself what and how, you're all in your head. When you ask yourself why, it activates your human spirit. It activates your heart, and the human spirit activates your energy. It's powerful
Mm.
beyond measure. So get to
When you
know
ask
why.
why, what is the why question you're asking? Because why can go in a couple of different directions, and I want to make sure everybody understands where you're coming from. What is the question why referring to? Why what?
Okay, so for me, it was, why am I going to get out of this bed? Why am I
Ah,
going to get up and walk
good.
again? Why
Mhm.
am I going to be the victor of my life? And it was because I'm going to set an example of resilience for my daughters. And
Mm,
so, as sick as I was from pain, I was like, my why is I'm getting out of bed so I can make my own coffee, even though I'm on crutches and in pain, and make breakfast for them. And my why was, I am going to get back to training my clients. I'm going to
mm,
get back to work. And one thing that was a lifesaver for me, and this might, for somebody who's going through a challenge or pain or anything that's really hard, you might be sitting here going, well, I don't know what to do. I can't give anymore. I can't do anything. One thing that really, really saved me and has helped me is being of service.
mm.
And when I say that, people go, well, how could you be of service when you were stuck in a hospital bed? When I was in the hospital for months at a time, I was still making calls to my clients. In fact, the very first thing that I did when I got out of a coma, the very first thing, as soon as I could talk, as soon as they took the tubes out of my mouth, I asked for my phone and I was making calls to clients, because
Wow.
saving my business was as important to me as saving my leg, which may
Mm,
seem kind of crazy unless you're an entrepreneur.
right.
And I was calling clients and reassuring them, hey, I know I may be in ICU, but third quarter, we're getting out of here. We're going to finish strong. In the hospital, I was making calls to clients, setting up their nutritional plans, making other calls to trainers, setting up their programs to work with
Wow.
my clients.
Wow.
And then I even had the nurses coming into the hospital room. And when they found out I was a trainer, I was giving them exercise tips on how to get a better booty. And so I even went back when I got out of the hospital and did an exercise class because I made friends with all the nurses.
Oh,
Having a purpose, being of service pulls you out of your self pity, pulls you out of doubt, and it gives you a reason why. So,
mm.
whether that's making a phone call, whether that, it doesn't have to be a big, huge reason why, but be there for someone, call
Yeah.
someone to check on them or show them that you're grateful for
This
them.
these are all great tips. We're going to run out of time. Nick has already told me we only have a few minutes left. So I need to ask a couple important questions. One is the show is called Zero Limits Living. And if you've seen a few episodes, you know that at some point I asked the guest, do you believe we have any limits? Do you believe, Amberly, if we have any limits?
I think we only have the limits that we put upon ourselves. I think that we are capable, able, and it's possible to be limitless. But I think that in order to do that, that we have to believe in ourselves, get our mindset right.
Mm, mhm.
Um, and I think that it's really, really important to have connection, because what I've learned is I had a lot of misconceptions about being limitless and being unstoppable. I thought it was all about grit and all
Mm,
about the hustle and all about working hard. And I was really good at working hard. I was never the most talented, the prettiest, the smartest by any means, but I could outwork people. But what I learned is grit without connection is resistance.
Well, I can't thank you enough. Where is your book? Is it at Amazon or on your website, or where do people go?
Yes, you can find my book True Grit and Grace on my website amberlylago.com. Probably the
Mhm.
easiest place to get it. You can get it at bookstores, but probably the easiest place is, like anything, Amazon is just one click away. You can get it there. You can find out about my future events. I have one coming up in Raleigh, North Carolina called
Oh,
on Unstoppable Success Summit.
hmm.
So anybody living near Raleigh, or if you want to go and connect, come out to Raleigh. But that's March 10th and 11th. And my podcast is True Grit and Grace. And I'm
Yes.
really hoping that you're going to be on there really soon.
And your website is amberlylago.com. Do you still take clients? Are you still helping people, whether it's with fitness or is it with other things? Do you help them with business and things like that?
I have transitioned. I have to admit, I still have a couple of clients that I've had for over 20 years
Oh,
that I
nice.
still train because I love them. I love them. But now I've transitioned more into, believe it or not, the business aspect. And so I have
Okay.
a mastermind where I coach women on how to get on stages, write their books, produce a podcast, and all that fun stuff, and just share their message. And so that's
Mm.
what I love. That's what lights me up the most, is just being able to connect with these women and see them go after their dreams and transform their lives.
You are incredibly inspiring to me, and I know to everybody watching or listening here. You are amazing. Unfortunately, I have to say goodbye for now, but since we are neighbors, we should visit at some point here in the great state of Texas. And yes, I will be on your show soon. So
Thank you.
Amberly, thank you for making time for me and for everybody. Everybody watching, listening, go to amberlylago.com. Check out her book. She's got photos there. She's got all kind of links there. She's active on Instagram, Facebook, and other places. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've been listening or watching to Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. You can now see or hear the show on 1,000 platforms, including Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and anything you can name, most likely. Go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. I'm putting all the episodes there, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. As I said in the beginning, check out Miracles Coaching. I started it 20 years ago. It's trademarked, it's proven, it's a system that works. Go to miraclescoaching.com. I want to thank Lux Media Studios for making this happen, Candace Barr for inviting me to do the show, Nick, who's running the engineering today, and all of you for making the time to be here. You know, Amberly doesn't get paid to do this. I don't get paid to do this. Both of us are doing an unexpected kindness, the title of my new book, to help you. Go out there and do something kind for other people. Believe in yourself and expect miracles. Thanks.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.